Hey guys, so let's get into it immediately. I personally, from experience, believe that forgiving and forgetting is a stupid concept. I think that it is important to be able to evolve past, move on, and grow from experiences, but I think it's incredibly naive and ridiculous and dumb not to use what you know and use what you've learned along the way when it comes to making decisions. So when they say, oh, forgive this person, and move on. No, you don't have to forgive anyone. And to be frank, some things are unforgivable. And it's okay to say that. There are certain things that people can do to you that are so egregious, so atrocious, so vile and evil that you have a right not to forgive that person. And anyone that's just spewing that forgive and forget stuff, look at them and how they treat you. If that person does not respect you, if that person does not honor you and value you and make you feel appreciated, seen, heard, and respected and cared for, that is not a person whose opinion you should be taking to heart. Everyone is your teacher. No matter if that person is biologically something else to you, everyone is here to teach you something. We attribute the characteristics of different relatives and people around us because of society tells us that this is a mother, this is a father, this is an uncle, this is an aunt, this is this person, and this is what their role should be. But let's be honest, most people are not the characteristics that society would tell us that they would function as. There are people whose mothers are not protecting them. And society would have us believe that mothers are protectors and nurturers for the children. There are mothers who are not nurturing. In fact, there are mothers who are neglectful and hurtful and purposely cause pain in the lives of their children. There are fathers who brutalize their children. That exists. But we have been taught that, oh, your father is always there for you. This is what a father is. So this is what we're seeking because we think, well, if I just do this a little bit different, if I'm just a little bit better, if I'm just a little bit smarter, then they'll see me and then they'll play that role. But that's not reality. Reality is that you might have been dealt a sucky hand. The reality is that there are mothers and fathers who actively go out to hurt their children, adult children on down. I'm not just talking about age here. So the fact is that there are some things that are absolutely unforgivable, and you would be not the healthiest person to forgive. Can you move on from it? I don't know. There are certain things that you probably can never truly move on from, but can you evolve past it and get to the point where it doesn't hold you back or haunt you every single day of every minute? And can you get to that point? Perhaps. But you can incrementally, little by little, make the necessary steps and the necessary changes in your own active reality now so that you can experience something different later down the line. And part of that is recognizing that perhaps you were hurt. And perhaps you don't have to forgive that person. Perhaps your mother was a bad mom. Perhaps your father was a bad father. Perhaps you were dealt a bad hand. And that's no reflection of you. That doesn't mean you're good or bad. It doesn't also mean that that person is good or bad. Maybe your mom was a great teacher, like as a elementary school teacher, but maybe she was a bad mom. Maybe that's your reality. Maybe your father was a great firefighter, but maybe he was a turd of a parent. And it's okay to say that. And when you can admit that, it's a bit more freeing. When you can admit that perhaps your father was a narcissistic turd waffle. Perhaps your mother was a narcissistic turd waffle. Perhaps you are a narcissistic turd waffle. Okay. We can just accept it. And some of those things are painful to accept. But once you can accept it, then you can start to see what's actually happening. You can start to see the person for who they are and not for who you wish they were. There's nothing in you that can change how that person is other than how you allow them treat you and other than how much you allow them in your space. Because a scorpion is going to you, because that's what it is. And perhaps your parent is a scorpion. Perhaps your sister is a snake. Perhaps that's the truth for you. And the sooner you can recognize that, you can move forward and you can grow, because then you feel a little bit lighter. Perhaps you are a snake. The good thing is you can always change and decide, but you can't force anyone else to decide, and you can't believe that someone's changed just because for 2 weeks or a few days they're suddenly doing all this nice stuff. Those people will love bomb you as well and get you back just so they can come and F with you again. So pay attention to that. Pay attention not only to what people say, but how you feel after you've been around them. Do you feel inspired after you were around this person, or do you feel like crying after you were around this person? Do you feel like you can go out and do anything in the world, or do you feel like, oh my gosh, why did I ever even believe that I could be anything? Don't be the scarecrow in the Wizard of Oz. Don't be stuck because these crows are coming to get you and you're the scarecrow. You're more powerful and more impactful than they, but they have, and you're stuck. You're stuck. You're scared to do, you're scared to move because perhaps your turd waffle parent brutalized you when you were a child. So now, whenever you do something positive in your life, what you think about subconsciously is the last time you did this, you got knocked across the room, or you saw your sibling get knocked across the room. And so now you're afraid to do the thing that's similar to that. So now you can't move to the next thing. Perhaps you think you smart, you ain't gonna be nothing. You think you smart, you ain't gonna be nothing. And when you did something that was smart, oh, you think you all that, huh? And perhaps then you were also sent flying across the room. And so, of course, now as an adult, if you are on the path to where you can have potential success, of course, you pause and self-sabotage, because that's how you were trained. You were trained as a child that good behavior gets you punished. Doing the right thing for yourself gets you tossed across the room. Doing the right thing for yourself gets you yelled at. That's how you were trained. So now you are afraid to do those things because of what happened when you were a child. So that is why it is important to recognize that perhaps your parent was a turd. Perhaps your parent did a horrible job and they failed at what they did for you. Perhaps that is the case, because then you can start to recognize those patterns and you can start to say, hey, well, perhaps if I do this thing instead, I'll get further, farther, faster. If I stop communicating with these people, I'll get further, farther, faster. And you'll take a break from those people and then recognize how much progress you make without them. And perhaps, maybe you are crazy, you know? But perhaps you're crazy enough to think you can do it and do it. I always think people probably thought Walt Disney was a Looney Tune. He probably was a Looney Tune to say that he was going to create this amusement park in Florida on a swamp and have no mosquitoes. Don't even sell gum in Disney World. He's going to have multiple parks. I'm sure people thought he was nuts. I'm sure that whoever created Ripley's Believe It or Not was told that they were, crazy, because who would want to see a show full of that? But people did. People did want to see it, actually. All of the circus people, I'm sure, would laugh if I said I wanted to be a magician. They'd say I'm crazy. But look at the guy in Vegas who's been doing shows. He's a magician, an illusionist. There are people who have done it, and you're no different from anyone else. But perhaps because of what you experienced, you have been halting yourself because you're trying to protect the younger you. You're trying to protect the child inside of you. But you can tell that inner child that it's okay now. It's not going to happen this time. I'm here. Give yourself a big hug. And if you're wondering, here's an activity. If you're wondering what potential things are holding you back, or curses or things, you can make a list of the people who raised you. And then you can write down, because it's easier to recognize things in other people sometimes than in ourselves. So you can write down all of the traits that you don't like in those people, and all of the curses and things like generational curses and trauma that they had and that they passed down to you. That they, like if they were, would knock you upside the head, that's something to write down. If they were incredibly critical, they're incredibly critical, you can write that down. And just write all those things down. And keep, hide it, change the names if you need to, whatever. But just write it down. And then group them together, because I'm sure you're going to have people that have the same or similar things. And then that's baseline where you can start and how you can evolve. So if one of those things was that one of your parents had a lot of anger, how did that impact you? Are you someone who now has a quick temper, or are you someone who lets a lot of things slide because you don't want to incur anger from someone? But it affected you somehow. And so you can pay attention to how you use your emotions on the daily basis, and then you'll be able to improve little by little. A little becomes a lot. See you next time.